So we're going to, rather than day by day going through the trip, we're doing it, looking at it thematically. And so this is the 5 sections of the presentation. The first of all, I'm going to show you the overall route we took. Secondly is Schweinfurter highlights. Third, we didn't just do Schweinfurter things, so we'll show some of the other things we did. And then a fourth category that I always think is fun and important is the people we meet along the way. Some of them are old friends, some of them are new friends we met. And then finally food. Food becomes an important part of the trip. And sometimes it gets overwhelming, so we'll look at that. So members of the tour came from different parts of the country. We had 2 people from California, a couple from Washington State, a person from Florida, a couple from Georgia, and 3 or 4 or 5 people from Virginia, and then the rest of us, 23 total from Pennsylvania. And we got the plane in Newark, and it marched over, as it always does, to Berlin. And we landed in Berlin Airport. Berlin Airport is about right there, and our first stop was Bautzen. Let me go back. We basically only visited just a little bit of Poland and this corner of Germany. That's about it. It's a pretty narrow place. So we went down to Bautzen the first night. Bautzen is the city of towers, and we stayed very near the Catholic church, or the main church in Bautzen. We stayed one night there, and then we drove to Zwateria, which the name isn't on the map here, but Zwateria. We stayed 4 nights in Zwateria. The hotel was a taller building just off the picture here. And if you see this spiky mountain here, that's the Spitzberg. This tower, if you can see a little tower there, we climbed the medieval tower. We'll get to that. I don't want to get too far into it. From Zwateria, after 4 nights there, we went to Jelenia Góra by way of Swidnica, and I'll talk about what was there, and then to a site very near the border, but we ended up for 1 night, I guess, in Jelenia Góra. Jelenia Góra, this is the main square, wonderful old arches. The Karkonosia Mountains, or the mountains on the border between Czech Republic and Poland, and we actually went very close to the Czech border in the Karkonosia Mountains. And then from Jelenia Góra, after the day in Jelenia Góra, we went to Görlitz, and we stayed 2 nights in Görlitz, walked where our Schweinfurter forebears walked in Görlitz. This photo is taken right from the border with Germany and Poland, and we stayed very close to the St. Peter and Paul Church. From Görlitz, we went down to Zittau, a little town that's right near the border with Poland, and we stayed overnight in Zittau. And Zittau has this interesting 19th century city hall. And then we went from Zittau to Pirna. And Pirna is where the Schweinfelders boarded barges. We'll get to this again, barges to get onto the river. And we stayed 2 nights in Pirna. And then in Pirna, there's the water. The town is right along the edge. The main square, this is the city hall. Salt House, we stayed just about on the other side of the church there. And then from Pirna, we went to Wittenberg, Lutherstadt Wittenberg, they call it now, right along the Elbe River. And we stayed right near the main square. The hotel was just behind where this picture is taken. That's the City Hall, the Luther's Church. In the background, we'll see another picture of this. And then we went from Wittenberg, we went to Berlin by way of Magdeburg. And we spent 3 nights, I think, in Berlin. we stayed right on Alexanderplatz, which is actually sort of behind here. We stayed in this Park Inn and right by the TV tower. So that's the overall route. And now we're looking at Schweinfelder highlights. And this is one of my favorite pictures, looking out over the Elbe River from the palace and dome up toward the top of the city. We'll get to that in a little bit. Our first stop, it was Novogrodziak or Naumburg, and this, all we did was stand kind of near this ruins. This is a large ruin that you can't get into, although on one of the earlier heritage tours we crawled through it. But nowadays they have it all blocked off. And it's the convent where Schweinfeld addressed the nuns on his first address or sermon that he gave to the nuns in Naumburg. And so we did a stop to reflect on that. And then we went to Grodziak Castle. And Grodziak Castle was where at least two Schweinfelders were imprisoned during the 30 Years' War, which the 30 Years' War was 1618 to 1648. These are, and we were able to climb all over. Some people went all the way over the ramparts. There's more that you can't see in the picture, and had a good time exploring the castle and the castle rooms. But this is a 19th century recreation, 18th, 19th century rebuilding. How it looked 300 or 400 years ago was probably a little bit different, but we still enjoyed our stay there. And then we had another kind of last minute stop that wasn't part of the original itinerary. We stopped at a little village called Lauterseifen, and now it's called Bilanka, in Polish, Bilanka. And Chuck here, who's in the room so I can say his name, this is the village where Tobias Hartrandt was born and where he came from. And we didn't go into there's more village behind the stop sign, but we did see a little bit, a few houses, and this is an 18th century Catholic church that we were able to go walk around the grounds of a little bit. So we did see a little bit of that. So this is Schweinfelder territory in Lower Silesia. And we stayed in Zwateria, which was Goldberg when our Schweinfelders were there. And after the Second World War, all this territory became part of Poland. And so it is now Polish, with Polish names. And Harpersdorf was kind of the center or a main area, and that's where we usually go and have gone in the past many times. But this time we went to Lauterseifen. Each time on the tour we've gone to Groditzberg or Grodziak Castle. This time we also went to Lang Neuendorf. And other times we've climbed the Spitzberg, which we did not do this time, but we could see the Spitzberg as a very large, pointy mountain in the landscape that you can easily see. This is where the Schweinfelders came from. There's other villages, Hokenau, Pilgrimsdorf, we drove by Pilgrimsdorf, Feldhäuser, Zolten, Propsang. All these villages, according to the GR, are where some Schweinfelders came from, the ones that came to Pennsylvania. So in Zwateria, which is probably Goldberg, probably the largest city, would have been a small city at the time, probably the market square where they came from. This is we're standing on the top of the medieval tower that we climbed up through very narrow, dark stairs that was great fun. And you can't see it very well, but there's a little point right around here, that's the Spitzberg. We could see it better when we were actually there, but the picture doesn't show it really well.
Willing to tell the story they said about the Spitzberg and the devil?
The story is how the Schweinfelders ended up in this area. Is the devil was gathering the Schweinfelders up from all over the country, and they put them in a sack, and he started to take them on the way to hell. And the sack, bottom of the sack, he wasn't quite high enough, and it caught on the top of the Spitzberg, and the Schwenkfelders fell out and settled in this area. So that's the, I don't know if that's a true story or not. True enough. One of the things new this year that we want to do is, it started around December or so in 2023, is some people in the community said they found another Fiveg. Now the Fiveg is, a Fiveg itself is actually community land that the community gets from the villages to the farm fields outside, and owned by the community. And it's also a place where people that were not allowed to be buried in sanctified grounds were buried. And the Schwenkfelders were forced to bury their dead along Fivegs in 1720 to 1740. And in Harpersdorf, what is now Twartitsa, they discovered that Fiveg in 1861-62 by a visit Dr. Solomon Schultz visited. And in 1863, they built a monument there, which we'll see in a few minutes, and purchased some ground there. But they knew, our Schwenkfelder forebears knew that there were at least 2 other Fiveg sites. But during the course of the 20th century, we lost that knowledge, lost awareness of that. And in December of 2023, some folks rediscovered that. And one of the sites, Fiveg sites, was the Fiveg in Long-Neuendorf, in this town Long-Neuendorf, outside. And so this is the walkway up to the Fiveg, and this is where they think the Fiveg burials probably were. It's sort of a funnel shape part of the landscape. You can see trees coming, and the trees continue to come out and then meet farmland. In the 1890s, this was sold off to as farm fields, and where the burials were, we have no idea. If this was actually where some burials would have taken place, we have no idea. But this is our best guess for the Fiveg. And you can't see her on there, and I'll talk about Marguerite Kempkin was instrumental in getting us to this. So that was a fun adventure, in addition to getting to Lauterzeichen, the Hartranft homeland. We're new on this tour. This is the walk to the Fiveg. On the left-hand side, we're in Twartitsa or Harpersdorf. We're leaving the main road and walking up what was, in the past, before this summer, it was a dirt road, 2-lane dirt road, and they paved it this summer to these houses here. But the Fiveg monument on the right here is actually much further up. It's hard to get a perspective with this picture, but these woods keep going up for a good couple 100-yard, good football field or 2 beyond. And this is the monument itself, and the youngest person on the trip always gets the honor of laying flowers. We get flowers and take along with us. And Hunter, who's here now, Sarah's grandson, was the youngest by, I think, a year or so, just barely made it. So he got to place the flowers for us. And these are the Schwenkfelder descendants at the Fiveg, which is a highlight of the tour. The monument was erected in 1863. Most of the monuments survived the Second World War. After the war, it was all this upper decoration was pretty well shot off, and anything on this facade was worn out, and you could hardly see. The German text, which is right here, was there, and we, Jerry Hebner and a couple of others of us on the Fiveg committee worked to have it restored or conserved back to its original look in around 2001 to 2002 that it was done. We added a translation stone at that time, Polish on this side, English on this side, which you can't see, but it's lettering. So this was a highlight, the group there. We also attended, the next day, we attended Mass at the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church was built in the 1730s, 1740s. It was built on property, Maestcher property, confiscated during the persecution of the Schwenkfelders from 1718 to about 1740. And it was built from the funds, some of the funds used to build it were the funds that were paid by the Schwenkfelders during fines paid by the Schwenkfelders during the persecution. This is the inside of the Catholic chapel. We call it chapel, but it's their church that they worship in every Sunday. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah. This is I counted up, this is the 5th time I've had a group in the church, and one of the things that they do that people that attend, some of our friends that attend there say is unique for the Twardatitsa church is before the priest is usually late getting to the church. And before the priest comes in, they usually sing religious songs. It's not really folk songs, I guess, but they sing songs, not really hymns, and one of the people on the tour recorded. I always say, don't take pictures. Try not to take pictures. This is their mass, and I don't want to interrupt it. So anyway, she recorded it, so we have some on tape. So in the church itself, it reverberates, and it just sends shivers up my spine whenever I attend, and that's, to me, that's always a highlight. And apparently they don't plan on it. They don't have song sheets. These are songs that they're familiar with, and different people, different ladies will start it up. It's not always the same ones. I have a feeling they sing mostly the same songs, but not always. Yes?
That while you're waiting for the priest to come,
Right.
These are songs to Mary, the mother of Jesus.
Okay.
And she translated it for me. And they apparently do it at Chenstohova still. They do that before the services at Chenstohova at some of them.
Did everybody hear that? So Maria, whose parents came from Poland, played that for her mother, and they said it's a tradition to do this in the churches, and they're singing songs to Mary, our Polish friends said that they go to other little churches that don't do this. So it probably depends on if they have people who are willing to sing or start it or something. But anyway, that's always a highlight. And then Ossig Schwenkfeld was born and raised in Ossig, the family-owned property. And this is an overview of the farm as it is today. This is probably a little bit dated photo, maybe 10 or 12 years, 20 or 15 years out of date. Two couples bought the property around 2010 or so. And they started doing improvements. One of the first things they did was they either built or redid a horse barn, and they bored horses there. They also added early on what was a practice, I don't know what you call it, arena, or that's a small arena type of thing for horses for practicing. Nowadays, they have every Sunday they have a farmer's market from 9 to 1, and this gets filled with local stuff. with all kinds of food and also other things. About 10 years ago, they restored this stretch of buildings, and it is a nursery and daycare now, very active nursery and daycare. You can't see it, but you'll see it on the next picture. This is where the estate house is. You'll see it on the next picture. The owner who we met there, Peter Boris, told me that their next goal is this stretch. They're going to make restore it and make a restaurant out of it, is their plan. We'll see what happens. So this is the Schweinfeld estate. It's 19th century, so it wasn't around with Schweinfeld's family time. We attended the church in Ossig, right around the corner. We just walked up to it. This is the inside of the church, and a highlight is always this panel, which was a gravestone. It would have been on the floor of the church at one point. At somewhere along the lines, it got put in the wall, but it marks a grave for a Schweinfeld family member, and this is the Schweinfeld coat of arms, the family crest. In Legnitz or Liegnitz, where Schweinfeld worked for about 10 years or so, around 12 or so to early 1520s, he worked in the palace there. We visited the palace. This is a portal or a doorway, entryway, that would look very similar to what his would have looked like at the time. It comes out this side, and we climbed this tower and had a great view of the city. Nearby the palace in Liegnitz is the St. Mary's Church, which is a Lutheran church. It would have been originally Catholic, but in the Protestant Reformation it became a Lutheran church, and has been a Lutheran church since, and it is still a Lutheran church today, with a very, very small congregation, because most of the population of Poland is Catholic. But we met the pastor there. We'll talk about that later, and they got inside the church. Schweinfeld probably worshipped here, but there's been so many changes over the years. The guy talking to this said there was very little that Schweinfeld would have recognized from the 1500s. In Görlitz, we were able to walk up this street. This street walks up or goes up from the river, and probably our Schweinfelder forebears walked up the street, and the buildings probably didn't look too much different than when they did. This is the main square, or the old square, and this is the state city hall and the astronomical clock. We'll come back to that. In Bertelsdorf, this is the Zinzendorf family estate. When we were visited with Jack Rothenberger's tour in 1998, this was a ruin, almost a ruin. The windows, I don't think there were any windows in it. There were trees, huge trees growing up. But they restored it shortly, within a couple of years, in the early 2000s, they restored it, and it is a community building now. The Lutheran church in Bertelsdorf, where were probably in that cemetery, probably some Schweinfelders were buried. The Schweinfelders stayed in Bertelsdorf for, 6 or 8 years. Some probably stayed behind. Most left, but
And they were there because
when they fled the Jesuit persecution in Harpersdorf or in Lower Silesia, they went to Görlitz and then to Bertelsdorf to settle. And we went to the Gemeinde house in Bertelsdorf, which has been restored. The Gemeinde house is the story is for many years that it's where the Schweinfelders met, but that's not really accurate. It really is two houses. This is one side, this is another side. People were living in there. Notes from that time say that they were not able to sell it when they sold their other houses, and so they handed it over to the community or the Gemeinde, so it became known as the Gemeinde house. We went inside, got inside. They, rather than leaving it as a house, they opened up one of the sides for a larger meeting room. And this is the inside on that side. This is the other side, which is this side. The meeting room, the picture before was on the other side. And let's see, there's a kitchen behind this door, and this is a restroom, and there's another restroom inside here. So it's they were able to restore it, and they use it as a community building. One of the things we also did in Bertelsdorf is walk along from the Five, or from the Gemeinde House. We walked along a street, and there are some known Schwenkfelder houses that we were able to spot. And this man, who was a real character, went along with some of the folks all the way out to this house. And believe it or not, inside this house is the remnants of a Schwenkfelder house that was a Kriebel house. And the owner, who's this woman, kind of looked at him and was a little bit nervous about them approaching their house. But this guy talked smoothly to her, calmed her down, and she ended up having a nice picture taken with a nice smile. So they were very tickled to be able to view their ancestors' house. In Pirna, we parked right along the river, stayed not far from the Elbe River, somewhere along here, which would have looked very different in the Schwenk 300 years ago when the Schwenkfelders came. Somewhere along here, they boarded the ships to go, the barges to float down the river to Hamburg. This is in Dresden. We crossed what was the Charles Bridge. It had been replaced in the early 20th century. Schwenkfelders noted that they went over that bridge. In David Schultz's diary, Christopher Schultz's diary, he mentions that they went over the bridge. They went under the bridge on their way, the 1734 trip. The stone bridge that they went under was built in 1220 and it was replaced in the early 20th century. And when they went under, all along here would have been fortress. The river flows along here. But here's the Frauenkirche, that was bombed. The downtown Dresden was pretty well bombed at the end.